Shannon, what is the first trait of self-awareness?
The first trait is being realistic about personal strengths, skills, and areas for growth.
So in order to be self-aware, one needs to be aware of their strengths as well as areas of growth?
Yes, being aware of our areas of growth and development is just as important as being aware of our strengths and self-awareness.
So why is it important for employers to hire employees who are aware of areas where they need improvement?
Because employers want employees who they know if they give a job, the employee is going to know which capabilities they have to execute the outcome. But they also want employees who know which areas of development they may need help in. So if there's a particular area that's not that employee's strength, knowing that that employee will leverage their team members who might be strengths in those areas to bring in them for their expertise and talents to get the job done. This also helps the employer to know that when they give the task, the job will be done. And so the employer doesn't have to micromanage or really view that person's everyday activities with a microscope.
And William, do you have any work experience where you started to develop more self-awareness regarding your strengths and areas for improvement?
Yeah, I have this job as a server where it's at this like kind of really small cafe, and I took the job originally because I always thought that servers were kind of like performers in a sense, and I myself am a performer theatrically, and I've always loved like being in front of people, and so I thought it would be an easy job because I love meeting people and working with them, and it turns out that it wasn't quite as easy as I thought it would be because the meeting people and working with strangers was super easy, chatting was great, but I was really terrible at taking orders, and I was just like so slow at writing that I would be halfway through like chatting with someone about their day and realize that I didn't hear anything that they had told me about what food or like if they wanted toast or wheat or white. And eventually it got to a point where I just realized I had to hold back on talking to people as much because it was really detrimental to the rest of my technical part of my job, where I needed to take the orders and make sure that the food got prepared correctly. Because I mean, like, that's really why people are going to a cafe. So I just ended up having to like rework everything that I did with the job.
It's great that you became more self-aware through it. What are some other ways we can become more self-aware, some other distinctions?
Sure. One of the distinctions that's important is understanding if we're introverts or extroverts, or a preference towards either. And really the difference between these two is how we feel energized. Introverts tend to feel energized by their own internal world, their thoughts, their feelings, their processes. They tend to be energized by quiet times of reflection. Extroverts tend to feel energized by their outside environment, their stimulus, the people that they're around, the activities, the lights, the sounds, the noise. And we're not one or the other. It's a continuum, really. And given our environment, we might have a preference towards introversion or extroversion. But really, the hallmark is, at the end of the day, how do we feel most energized?
And William, do you think that you have a tendency to be more of an introvert or more of an extrovert?
I would say definitely extrovert. There's like a tendency. I mean, I definitely have some introverted qualities. I think sometimes, like you say, like people have leanings towards they tend to do one or the other, and then like dabble in the other one. Like I said, I'm a performer, and I like really love meeting new people, and that's like how I get a lot of my energy. And I really feel that like when I meet a new person, I kind of go off the walls a little. But definitely there are moments where, like, say if I'm really stressed with like homework or like a test or something that's coming up, I sometimes like to be alone and quiet and listen to music. And I don't necessarily derive energy from that, but I really enjoy that as like a sort of calming kind of thing.
And it sounds like the industry that you're interested in, acting and theater, is a really good suit for your tendencies of extroversion.
What are some other ways that, let's say you had a very stressful week. Are there ways that an introvert might want to be energized that are different from an extrovert?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so a great example is if we've had a really busy week. Let's say at work we had multiple projects with deadlines that things needed to be done in a certain time frame. Or we're at school and we've had multiple tests that we've had to study for and we've had to complete. On Friday, how might you best feel energized? What sounds most appealing? For an introvert, quiet time might sound most appealing. I know I'm an introvert, and so the thought of being at home and no TV, no music really sounds like heaven to me. But that quiet time for reflection and thought may appeal more to introverts. Extroverts, on the other hand, may feel like a night out with friends or family, going to a restaurant, seeing a movie, maybe other activities of interest, really is more preferred. And so again, there's no right or wrong answer, but that might be an indicator of how someone might decide what they think their preference is.
And hearing you describe all of this, it sounds like it's a very important thing to know for self-awareness, because when we can energize ourselves in the best way, we're also able to be the most refreshed for work, to have our best effort in.
Yes, that's a great point.
You can get a head start on developing your self-awareness right now. Think of 5 strengths. Strengths can be things that come easily to you that don't necessarily come as easily to others, like working with computers, for example. Strengths can also be skills that others have complimented you on, whether it was a teacher, peer, supervisor, or parent. They can be topics you have a strong interest in and are very knowledgeable about. Write down each of these 5 strengths and think about what information have you used to identify them. List this information next to each strength. Now write down 5 areas that you'd like to improve in. What could you do to start to develop that skill? Write down those ideas as well. Afterwards, share your list with people who know you well to see if others agree with your self-appraisal of strengths and areas of growth.